What's up everyone? Brian Phobos here, back for another video, and I want to talk about this Bitcoin bubble and how it's going to end, or if it's going to end. We have an incredible run up. Look at that chart. That is insane. It is going parabolic, and today it is trading right now for $9,596, kind of approaching that 10K mark that everybody's been really pushing for. So let's take a look back at the last bubble, and let's talk about it from a fundamental standpoint of why it happened and how this bubble relates to that and kind of the feelings and sentiment. I've been in the Bitcoin space, the cryptocurrency space, since fall of 2013. So I've seen the highs, seen the lows, and when this was happening, we actually thought Bitcoin was going mainstream, that basically it was taking over. And you don't know how high the peak is going to go. You don't know when it's going to end, if it's going to reset. So there was 4 major events that actually happened in this bubble that contributed to this collapse in this long, drawn out cooling off stage that we're going to talk about. But first I want to tell you about the story of Rocky Point. Now, why am I telling you this? Rocky Point right here on the Baja, California, well, the Baja's over here. But this is basically considered Arizona's desert, or Arizona's beach. So people from Phoenix, people from Tucson, people from Yuma, they come down here to go to vacation. Now, do you think the people in Rocky Point want the United States, people from the United States, to convert their money to the Mexican peso and pay them down there in the Mexican peso? Or do you think they would rather want the US dollar? They want the US dollar because relative to the peso, it is inflating way less. Also, another spot down here is Guaymas, and it's San Carlos. So people go down there, same thing. They want the US dollar because it's relative safety from inflation. They don't want the Mexican peso even down there. Same thing, go down to Nogales, they'll accept the US dollar. Now, when is that gonna happen for Bitcoin? When are people going to be like, well, I don't want the US dollar, I want Bitcoin, I want Litecoin, I want Monero, I want Dash, whatever, or some other cryptocurrency in the future? Like, when is that going to happen? Well, it has already started happening in countries that have the most economic problems. A lot of you probably have seen this. Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, $100 trillion, hyperinflation at its max. And right now, and this already happened, that collapse, they kind of did a reset, and then it's collapsing again, and people are running to Bitcoin. They're paying like $17,000 for a Bitcoin because they don't want this fiat currency. And other places, Argentina, Venezuela, you're going to see it more and more in those types of countries that have economic problems. They're going to run to it first. You're going to have it happen in the second world. Then you're going to have it happen in the first world countries. But look at some of the Google trends for buy Bitcoin. Now you've got in each one of these run-ups, we had a lot of action for people searching buy Bitcoin. Where is it coming from? Ghana, Nigeria, Australia, South Africa, Singapore. But look at Australia. Everyone from Sydney to Melbourne to the Jackaroos out in the outback want Bitcoin. They want it in New Zealand. Canada, they're searching it more per capita or whatever than the United States. People are searching it. Let's look up some other stuff. Let's do buy Monero. Got a lot of action. Ireland. They want Monero in Ireland. Look at Australia. They want Monero. Let's look up Dash. Really surging. As the prices go up, people start searching it more. How do I get it? How do I get it? Look at the Canadians. Canadians are just going crazy. They want Dash. The Australians, they want Dash. So obviously, like, people are searching this out as the prices go up. FOMO just goes insane. Fear of missing out. And I'm going to tell you this right now. You probably have fear of missing out. You should have bought, or when you first heard about it, you should have bought more or whatever, unless somebody's holding $100 million in cryptocurrencies. they have the fear of missing out too. Everybody has the fear of missing out because you just think, well, what could I have done more? I should have went down to Mexico and sold my left nut. I should have sold my kidney. I actually went over to the CSL Plasma Center here and, you know, tried to give plasma like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was kind of a joke. I was at the Bitcoin meetup and I was like, yeah, we should all give plasma and then, you know, buy Bitcoin with the money, because they're saying you can get $400 your first week. It was kind of an advertisement on the radio and stuff. And it was kind of a joke, like, yeah, we could all do that. It could be a meetup over there. Well, I went over to CSL Plasma to do this, and they actually rejected me. They said my heart was beating too slow, so I couldn't even give plasma. So you just ask yourself, well, could you have done more? I should have sold everything. I should have sold all properties. I should have sold my car. I should have sold everything. So everybody has the fear of missing out. You have not missed it. There's always going to be the next projects that are coming up, you know, different things. I'm not going to get real heavy into it, but we all obviously have some up and comers and stuff that's not even on this top 100 that could potentially break out. All you have to do is you have to have 1 or 2, you know, 1,000 bangers, which is not impossible here. Obviously, we've seen it with Ethereum. Ripple is 1,000%, all this kind of stuff, Monero. So you have to have one of these big breakouts, and if you play it smart, you can live out the rest of your life on the crypto. And this actually happened to a guy that I know here in Arizona. He basically bought into Bitcoin, went all in, you know, back around the 2011 timeframe. And then he's got it all planned out to where he can live out the rest of his life by selling out a certain amount of Bitcoin each month. And he can pretty much ride out the rest of his life, you know, if cryptocurrencies don't go away, which, come on, we know it's going to take over. It's just a matter of time. But is it going to happen now? Is it taking over? Is it going mainstream? So let's talk about the way I felt and the way other people felt back in this 2013, 2014 boom, and what happened and what kind of unraveled it, and talk about how that relates to this one. So a couple notes that I have here. So 2013, 2014 bubble, what happened? Fundamentally, Mt. Gox collapsed. That was a huge, huge issue. A lot of people lost a lot of coins, and that whole case is still going on. It's kind of ridiculous. There was tons of shit coins weighing the price down. Sex coin, Lambo coin, YOLO coin. So let's take a look at this real quick over on Map of Coins. So this is mapofcoins.com. It's not really maintained anymore, but you had all these clones. So here's Litecoin, and you had all these clone coins. You know, have we heard of these? Fect coin, Red coin. Well, we have heard of Red. REC coin, RCH coin. I mean, there's just absurd amounts of them. And you have to remember that back then, when you were going to get into the crypto world, you were going to go from fiat to Bitcoin for the most part. And let's say with Coinbase, for instance, there was only Bitcoin, you know, fiat to Bitcoin. There wasn't Litecoin, there wasn't Ethereum at that time on that exchange. So you were going to have to buy Bitcoin, and then you're going to have to sell the Bitcoin for one of these shit coins, which weighed down on the price. You know, so it was just like diluting the amount of liquidity that was in Bitcoin, or it was putting all the sell pressure on Bitcoin. Ethereum crowdfunding. So Ethereum, when they did their crowdfund in Bitcoin, it was one of the most successful crowdfunding projects of all time. Now, as the developers were developing Ethereum, you know, they were having to sell their Bitcoin to fund development and pay for bills and all that kind of stuff. So that weighed on the price. Merchants accepting Bitcoin. While we thought it was great news, you know, it was like Overstock announced they were accepting it, and then Microsoft was going to accept it for Xbox Live stuff, and then, you know, Expedia saying we accept it. It was like people could get a lot of press by saying they accepted it at that time, and we thought that was great. It's like, oh, this is going mainstream. But anytime you're in like a resale business, you know, Dell computers, the margins are slim, you know, when you're reselling something, and, you know, a lot of times they would convert straight to fiat. 100% of the Bitcoin would get converted to fiat so that they wouldn't get any slippage there. So all these things weighed down on the price, and ultimately when the price starts to go down, then kind of your amateur looking in from the outside is, it looks like the bubble's popping or this is going down. They don't want to get caught on the wrong side of it. When stuff's going up, it's like, oh, I don't want to miss the train. So it's an emotional reaction to, to what's going on and everything. And so even in this, after this dip and, Mt. Gox crash, it was kind of like, okay, well, moving on. And I remember it being, at these $850 price levels, and then, being around 650. And actually maintained kind of 650, it seemed like, for a while. And it was like, okay, we're getting stability, and then we're going to go back up. And it didn't. It just kept sliding. And then January of 2015 hit $176. And I'm going to tell you guys, it was terrible. You're better off being in the surge and having FOMO and feeling like you missed out or you should have done more. You'd rather be in this, because bits are just flying from the sky. We're getting all these forks of Bitcoin, so you're kind of able to cash in on that. You've got, it's a more developed market now. You got something like Steemit that you can blog on and earn some crypto. Mining rewards are good. During this time, it was so unprofitable to pretty much do any kind of mining practically, unless you almost had free power. And then it just felt like, man, when is this stuff going to move? This is terrible. And keep in mind, 6 months in the cryptocurrency world is an eternity. I mean, we see these kind of price moves we've seen in the last 6 months. It's absurd. The volumes are just raging out of control. So the volumes are way up, and that's a very, very good sign, obviously. But one of the huge things, huge news is that just here, over the Thanksgiving break, Coinbase was adding like 100,000 wallets a day, 100,000 new people signing up a day. That is huge. And there's days when maybe it's 30,000 new people, but that's insane. I mean, that's a lot of people coming to it, and we see the search volumes and stuff like that for buying crypto is surging. So all those are good signs. So let's go back to this again. And that pretty much, I hope that's a good explanation on fundamentally why some of these things happen. I'm not going to talk about the technicals like, oh, well, it didn't, maintain the support level and this moving average was breached and all that kind of stuff. I'm looking at this from more of a fundamental perspective and the mindset of us that lived through the 2013-2014 bubble and then survived the 2015 crypto nuclear winter. So 2017, so we got, up here we had all the shit coins. Now we've got all these shit tokens. There's over 10,000 ERC20 tokens that have, obviously they're on Ethereum. Now, is that going to weigh on the price of Bitcoin? So one of the differences now is that people can enter the crypto market directly through Ethereum or directly through Litecoin, through, let's say, something like Coinbase, and then Kraken Kraken during the 2013-2014 bubble, they weren't in the United States. They were actually based out of San Francisco, but they did not do business. They did not service the United States market because of the regulations, and they were worried about it, understandably so. It's like on Bittrex now, if you've been on there and got coins caught on there, now they want you to upload a selfie, upload your identification and all this stuff. Very invasive, but everybody's worried about regulations and then having the U.S. government come down on them. So it's understandable from their perspective. But so we have these ERC20 tokens. Now, my feeling is that that's not actually going to weigh on Bitcoin. It's actually going to weigh on Ethereum more than anything, because they've sold the ERC20 token for Ethereum, and then if they want to cash out, there's no reason for them to convert to Ethereum and then convert to Bitcoin unless they thought that there was going to be a stronger move, and so they did that, and then later on they cash out of Bitcoin, or they did it, let's say these ICO scammers, and not everything's a scam, guys, but 95% of the ERC20 tokens don't make any sense and they're scams. So they might have converted to Bitcoin because they saw that the move was maybe going to be stronger with it, and it's first in name, and this first mover's advantage has just been unbelievable for Bitcoin. So let's look at this again, kind of the next thing. So I think that ERC20 tokens are going to weigh more on Ethereum than it is Bitcoin. Now, BitConnect is a big worry in the community that when that Ponzi implodes, that it's going to create a huge amount of weight on the crypto scene, just because the market cap's so high. So coin market cap, this is kind of funny, because before it was up here and it overtook Monero and overtook Neo, and it was climbing. And I think there's been a big call out because their exchange is mainly internal. I know they're on HitBTC now, but obviously it's a clear Ponzi, and eventually it will collapse. It'll either exit scam, or if, let's say, we do have a big pullback, it won't be able to maintain payouts and stuff like that. Now, they can keep it going for a long time, but there might be enough attention called to it that the US government might seize the domain. It's actually, they have it through GoDaddy, and they have domains by proxy protecting it. And GoDaddy is based out of, the Phoenix, Arizona area. So the Federal Trade Commission, if they wanted to take action, they might be able to seize that domain. So I'm not saying it might be here tomorrow, it might be gone, it might last 6 months more, it might last 2 years. They could keep it going for a while, but if that collapses, that could cause major problems. And it was clear up here, but they keep lowering the supply on coin market cap, because I think that everybody's trying to get it away. It's kind of like, it's like this, I don't know. It's just something that everybody's like worried about this, understandably so. So let's look at this. BitConnect on Google Trends. Search volumes have been going way up. I think they can maintain this scam for a long time. You've got all these different countries searching for it, but ultimately, it has been an increasing thing. And a lot of us didn't think it was going to stick around for this long, but it has. So that's that. I don't think that's going to collapse. I think it's actually going to collapse if the price of Bitcoin collapses. It's going to be a reactionary thing to a Bitcoin pullback rather than the other way around. So other Bitcoin forks, do I have to worry about those? Overall, so, we're having all these forks, and kind of my prediction, a month or two sort of came to fruition, that now these additional Bitcoin forks are showing up on, coin market cap, and it's going to get super confusing for newbies. But we have Bitcoin Cash, we have Bitcoin Gold up there, and then suddenly we're going to have Bitcoin Diamond, and according to the futures, it's going to be about, in fourth spot. So there's going to be it's going to be Bitcoin Diamond up here. But I made this thing kind of making fun a while back, and I was saying, oh, this is what coin market cap's going to look like. Bitcoin, Ethereum, ShitConnect, because ShitConnect was moving up hard. Bitcoin Segwit at 69x, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Silver Legacy, Bitcoin Satoshi Classic, useless Ethereum token, which that's actually a real token. They ended up doing the ICO and got $90,000 for this UET token. Just people just throwing money at anything. I mean, it was literally useless Ethereum token. There's all kinds of scams out there, guys. So people are getting way overextended. They got FOMO hard, just throwing money at anything. But anyway, obviously this is a joke, Bitcoin boss, but that this is what coin market cap's going to look like, in 6 months or something. So that's already starting to happen. We got Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold. Now, can one of these overtake? Clearly, the biggest threat right now is from Bitcoin Cash. Got some major players like Roger Ver behind it. I'm actually a little more in this camp, but the thing is, I moved a bunch of funds back to Bitcoin because during Thanksgiving, I just knew people are going to be sitting around the table and they're going to be talking about Bitcoin, getting their parents signed up, college kids home from college, people home with their family, and they want to talk about Bitcoin, how they've been earning money. And get on Coinbase, first in name is going to be Bitcoin. Maybe they buy some Ethereum, stuff like that. So I could kind of predict that move to that respect. So then, like, are people going to cash out for Christmas, you know, to buy gifts? In a lot of parts of the world, I've talked to other people about this, like in China, Christmas isn't really a thing. You know, in different parts of the world, that's not really a thing. And as this becomes more globalized, the weight of U.S. people maybe cashing out a little bit for Christmas gifts, I don't see that being like too much weight on it. And then as far as these other Bitcoin forks really being able to make like huge inroads, obviously they have wide distribution because everybody who had Bitcoin got them. But then I think with some of these, people are they're holding on, or they don't know how to actually retrieve their coins and then sell those coins for Bitcoin, or they don't want to sell their Bitcoin for the Bitcoin fork coin. So I don't know. We might have some big runs with Bitcoin Cash and all that stuff. But let's just say this, and I'm not trying to talk smack about Bitcoin, but the scalability issues are really ridiculous. I mean, can you imagine if your cell phone in 2013 worked better than the cell phone you have now? That's absurd. And back when we were in this bubble, Bitcoin actually worked better back in this bubble than it works now. The fees are outrageous, but it hasn't mattered. That's the thing that actually like threw me for a loop, that every time these peaks happened, I actually thought in this first peak, and then it went down to around 2000, went down to 1900. I actually, in my mind, I never like posted anything. I never posted anything on Steemit or anything like that, thinking that, well, this could be the dead cat bounce. I didn't post anything on that one, but in my mind, it was like, there's so many scalability issues and the fees are outrageous. And it's like, this hasn't been solved yet. And that should have been solved in 2015. That I was just it just had me worried that this bubble really was going to have this kind of legs. But then, you know, the whole Bitcoin Cash, suddenly Bitcoin Cash was announced, and then everybody wanted to buy in to take advantage of that. So at that point, it was like, okay, well, crash isn't happening now. We're all buying in. We're bringing more fiat to tap into Bitcoin Cash. Then when this bounce actually went down, and it almost got down, it got like 3,300. I thought it was going to go down 3,000, but it bounced before that. I actually thought this was going to be the dead cat bounce, because it was like, okay, well, we got our free money, we got our Bitcoin Cash, and now there's nothing on the horizon. But then when a week or two popped by, and then Bitcoin Gold, and then the talk that there wasn't 100% consensus, a SegWit 2x, that it was like, well, we could end up with a SegWit chain, a SegWit 2x chain, and we got Bitcoin Gold. So of course, everybody's going to buy in to get their free money. So then it was like, well, dead cat bounce is off the table. Let's bring in more fiat, you know, and then it rose up. And then we had this sharp decline that night a couple weeks ago when Bitcoin Cash was surging, and there was that huge pump coming out of like Korea or wherever, and that was insane. I actually thought, I was like, oh my God, like this could be the flippity, and it, you know, Bitcoin Cash could take over. And but then ultimately going into Thanksgiving and all that stuff like that, it was like, well, people are going to talk about it. The search volumes are way up, you know, buy Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff, search volumes. And I just see this thing keep surging. So it was just like, you know, just keep bringing in more fiat, keep in the game. And then, I mean, these prices are just, it's absurd. So it even is surprised, I think it's surprised most people, even if you know, went through this bubble and made it through this, that some of the scalability issues with Bitcoin has been a worry. It hasn't mattered. A lot of people buying on Coinbase and these different places, they're never even transferring the coins. They're just staying there and just having it in the Coinbase wallet. They don't know how to move the coins. They don't understand the technology. They're just like, Bitcoin is going up. I want that. Let's get some. How do I get some? And that's the extent of their crypto knowledge. So that's there's a lot of people coming into the market like that. And then with the altcoins, I mean, people maybe get to the point where they can buy up some of these. And with Ethereum, a lot of the stuff is really, a lot of it's marketing campaigns, like, you know, what all this stuff is gonna do in the future. And don't get me wrong, there's some good projects out there. The run-ups have been insane, and every one of us have FOMO. But let's talk about is the fiat flipping happening now? We talked about Rocky Point. We talked about how they want US dollars, they don't want Mexican pesos. And I've already kind of seen this happening where kind of people in general that didn't even know I was in crypto, they would say, well, I accept Bitcoin. Like, they would pretty much rather would have gotten paid in Bitcoin. I was really kind of like surprised by that. I was like, what? How do they know about Bitcoin? So you're seeing it happen more and more, but then yet in the same token, if I go down the street and I talk to everybody in this neighborhood, if they know what Bitcoin is, maybe they've kind of seen it, talked about on CNBC, but they probably don't have any. I'd be very, very surprised if anybody on the street has any Bitcoin besides myself. So obviously there's a ways that this can run, but is it just going to keep going up? Basically, could we just continue this run and then it just goes stratospheric and it goes clear up to, you know, $25,000, just goes up to $100,000. It just keeps going. I think, you know, why it's possible, every single bubble that I've ever studied, whether it's the dot-com bubble, the housing crisis in 2008, you know, and I mean, you can look at these charts and you got, you know, you have the dot-com bubble and then it basically lost a decade. Then you had the housing crisis, lost a decade essentially. And then we're at these all-time highs as far as S&P 500. I've studied every bubble and, you know, what caused it. A lot of times it's debt-based or being overextended. And with cryptos, it kind of plays from a different kind of pattern in a way, but fundamentally you can kind of like pick out these kind of issues. And then two, when people get used to these types of absurd gains where you just throw money in and then you wake up and it's went up 10%, there becomes an unreasonable expectation that that's how it is. And man, it's just like a magic money machine that you're just gonna crank out these absurd returns. And when that doesn't happen, or if that slows down in any respect, then people get shaken. And then secondly, being in the stock and option market, while that can be kind of volatile at certain times, like that's nothing compared to crypto. I mean, that's like a gateway drug into crypto. And once you're in crypto, you're just kind of like, and they're saying, you know, I'm in the millennial generation. They're saying millennials, you know, it's getting to a point where more millennials would rather be in cryptocurrency than they would be in the stock and option market. It just moves too slow once you've been in this market. And then you're just like, man, it's unreal. It's euphoric. So I don't know when this comes down. You know, it's even when it was like at 3,000, I had a conversation. I'm like, man, this might go to 5,000 or 10,000, man. I don't know when. And now it's almost there. And then it's like, well, can it go to 20,000? Can it go to 25,000? Of course, if institutional money comes in, hedge funds keep investing, they're getting FOMO. Everybody's dumping in. People from around the world are trying to dump in, you know, and keep going. It could do that. Now, as far as like Bitcoin being peer-to-peer digital cash and being able to use your Bitcoin and stuff, I mean, transaction fees are too high, and the blocks are all filled up and stuff like that. So it is a major worry from that standpoint, but that doesn't stop people from buying into it, which is kind of surprising because, again, I use the analogy, if your cell phone didn't work as well today as the one you had in 2013, you'd be pissed. And that's what we have with Bitcoin, but people are still buying in. So ultimately, I don't see this slowing down. When you have 100,000 wallets in a day, and that's happened multiple days, you know, from Coinbase, even if those people put in $100, they put in $1,000, you've just got so much money coming in. And even if you look at total market caps, I mean, the entire market cap here, let's just go here randomly in 2015, May of 2015, $3.3 billion in Bitcoin. And now we have $160 billion volumes are way higher, everything's up. I don't see any event-specific thing that is going to take out Bitcoin at this time. Now, tomorrow, you know, some major government could come out and say we're outlawing it. Obviously, regulation from the U.S. government, there's always that worry, but that's always been there. It's always kind of been an issue, or just worrying about that in the back of our minds. But eventually, you know, they're not going to want the fiat money. They're not going to want the US dollar even. And we're seeing that happen, of course, in these countries that have economic problems. And then we're going to see it in ones that don't have as much economic problems. And then we're going to see it in the first world. We're going to see it in Canada, United States, Western Europe, all that. But I don't think that this bubble, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think that this one is going to be the one where it flips and nobody wants the US dollar. Because transactionally, I don't think technologically it's ready. It can't do as many transactions as the Visa network, the MasterCard network, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's not propagated to every part of our lives yet. And I understand that we can use, you know, BitPay cards and that kind of stuff. But again, that's going to be riding on like the Visa network and that kind of stuff. So I just don't see it climbing up and then being worth like $100,000 and like everybody just wants Bitcoin. Nobody wants the US dollar. I think we're going to have a hard reset, and it's going to happen. And I don't know, it could go up to 20,000. It could go up to 25,000 a coin. I'm not really sure. But I think that this market has way more legs than we saw in 2013, 2014. It's just the name is getting out there. More people know about Bitcoin. So that's my thought process. I don't know when it comes down, but I don't think this is kind of the point where it takes over. I think we are going to eventually have a hard reset, whether it goes up to 20,000, it comes down super sharp, but there's going to be people waiting to buy and obviously get in. But you have to understand that the amateur investor is shaken very easily. And if this shoots up and then it shoots down and loses half its value, I mean, they're just having nightmares, and they're just like, oh my God, I can't take this volatility. And I've heard stories of that where people bought in, actually took decent positions in it, and then they just could not handle the volatility. They couldn't sleep at night, and they just sold out of it. And then now the run has happened, and they're like, oh shit, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, that's my thinking, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Follow me on all social media. I'm at Brian Phobos on Steemit, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. I'm at Brian Phobos. Please subscribe, like the video. See you guys for the next video.